What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, I don't know, some of you guys don't know me on a personal level. You know me from the videos and whatnot, but I observe things. Like, I don't just jump the gun oftentimes. I'm very calculated. I'm a planner. And there's something I've been observing and noticing, which is leading me to this video. I was going to make it a little bit sooner, but I was like, let me just keep an eye on it and see what unfolds and what transpires. And I have no choice but to make this video, and I'm going to be brutally honest, giving my thoughts on it. Where the hell is Showtime boxing? Like, some people are like, what do you mean, Ego? I'm going to explain to you what I mean. So, Al Heyman, he said he was bringing boxing back to primetime. And that was in January, late January. He announced it to the public in New York. I was like, that's a good idea. That's great, boxing back on primetime. But the problem is, Al Heyman has such a vast, deep stable, and he's trying to get it off the ground, right? Some people like some of the matches, some people hate some of the matches. Nonetheless, he has quantity. He's giving you a lot of matches. Like Danny Garcia just fought Lamont Peterson. He's already back in action with Paulie Malignaggi in August. So that being said, he's producing a lot. Keith Thurman fought Robert Guerrero. He's already back in action next month. He's going to be fighting Luis Collazo. So I'm all good with that. As long as you're keeping these guys active, keeping them in the public eye. Some matches are going to be tougher than others. But I was thinking, and I've been thinking about this for a while, HBO is absolutely killing Showtime. And I don't understand what their goal is for 2015. Now, I don't work for Showtime. I don't work for HBO. I work for Ego. I work for me. So I can say what I want. And this is what I'm talking about. I don't know, maybe because Mayweather Pacquiao was such a hit and a success. Maybe they have money in the bank. I don't know anything on their financial end. They follow me on Twitter, but that's about it. And I know some people that work for Showtime, that kind of thing. But what I mean by that is I was just thinking, and I watch boxing. You guys know I cover boxing, report on it, give my commentary and stuff like that. I can think of, off the top of my head, fights that I've seen on NBC that were good. You know what I mean? Robert Guerrero, Keith Thurman, I thought was a good fight. The Lamont Peterson, Danny Garcia, I thought that was a good fight. I could think of fights on HBO that I thoroughly enjoyed this year. Matisse Provodnikov, Jesse Vargas versus Timothy Bradley, Cotto Gill. I mean, it was one-sided, but it was still somewhat of an event. You know what I mean? Seeing what was happening and stuff. And when I think of Showtime, I can barely remember their programming, like what fights are on Showtime. And I think a lot of people, until this video, may not have put this into perspective. We haven't had many Showtime fights. Many of the fights that we've seen, because a lot of people associate Al Heyman with Showtime, so they probably didn't really put it into perspective. We had Mayweather Pacquiao, but I don't really include that because that was like a landmark, great co-promoted event. So it was HBO, Showtime, CBS. It was everybody involved in that and making that. I'm talking about Showtime only, and I'm not talking about Showbox. I'm talking about big cards, big fights. I could think of, I believe, Vanes Matarosen versus the Charlo brother. That was a Showtime card. And I think it had Gary Russell Jr. versus Johnny Gonzalez. And Eric Molina versus Deontay Wilder. That's literally the only fights that really stand out to me that I can think of that were actually aired on Showtime. And again, the problem is, when I'm thinking about HBO, I'm thinking of Canelo Kirkland. I'm thinking about Vladimir Klitschko versus Bryant Jennings. And like I said earlier, Lucas Matisse, Provodnikov, and a ton of different fights just off the top of my head that came on HBO. Nicholas Walters versus Mariaga. And on that card, you also had Felix Verdejo. You've seen Oscar Valdez on the Timothy Bradley, Jesse Vargas card. The Brandon Rios, I was at that fight with Mike Alvarado 3. I can think of several HBO programming fights and NBC. So my thing is, what is Showtime, like, what is their game plan? What have they done in the first quarter in terms of fights? And then I'm going to do a separate video about this. Canelo and Cotto, sounds like there's a likelihood that fight can take place in the fourth quarter. Guess what? Cotto is with Rock Nation. His last fight with Daniel Gill was on HBO, right? Canelo moved back to HBO with Golden Boy and Oscar De La Hoya. His last fight was on HBO with Kirkland. etc. It's going to be an HBO fight. So my thing is, I don't really understand what it is for Showtime, and maybe some people can clarify. I didn't do any research before I did this video. I'm just going off the top of my head like I normally do, and I can't think of many Showtime fights. Not Showbox. I'm talking about actual Showtime main event boxing versus HBO. I can think of several that I watched and enjoyed, really. So I really don't understand what was up with the first quarter from a business perspective. Again, the only fight that I could think of that was super memorable was the Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. And again, I can't give Showtime only credit for that because it was a joint co-promoted event. So ultimately, that's the biggest downside that I've seen with this Al Heyman PBC model is he's trying so hard because it's a new endeavor, new business venture to get that off the ground and up and running that I feel like Showtime is being starved out. Like, what have they produced? Like, you know what I mean? Do people even need a Showtime subscription? I mean, should I cancel this shit? Like, you got to get some programming. You know what I mean? Like, I'm thinking, I'm looking at my phone or cable bill, and I'm like, what's going on? Do I need this? Because even the fights coming up, Paulie Malignaggi, Danny Garcia, ESPN, Keith Thurman versus Luis Collazo, ESPN, and I'm just thinking, like, Showtime, like, let's say Mayweather fights in September. I don't know who he's going to fight. But whoever he fights, he's going to fight on pay-per-view. So you don't even need a monthly Showtime subscription for a pay-per-view event, because even if you subscribe to Showtime, you still would have to pay $70 or $100 or whatever they charge from a Mayweather pay-per-view to order that. So do I need Showtime? Like, maybe I'm tripping. Maybe there's something I forgot. I think they had Kell Brook, Jojo Dan on Showtime, which was a fight I didn't even really care about. I just watched it because I think I was cooking a BLT. But I really don't understand what their business model is for the first quarter. And I think the Al Heyman model, like with PBC on primetime, is great. But when are they going to start feeding some of these fights to Showtime? Like, there's been, and that's the thing, PBC has had some good fights, like Guerrero, Keith Thurman, but it's like everything is coming on these primetime premium cable networks or regular cable networks. Adrian Broner versus Sean Porter, that wasn't on Showtime. You had Broner versus John Molina, that was on the Thurman Guerrero card. I'm just wondering what the game plan is for Showtime. Like, because I don't even really watch TV much. I watch sports, and that's about it, and mainly boxing. So I'm trying to decipher if I even need a Showtime account. You know what I mean? Save myself a couple months of Showtime bill and then get it when they have some better fights. But I'm not really liking what I've seen on Showtime. Like, the only fight I really remember is, like, the ones I said, Gary Russell and Johnny Gonzalez. And that was cool, but it wasn't, you know what I mean? It's not worth me paying for Showtime for 3-4 months or a year, whatever length of time. So let me know what you guys think. If there are other ones that I forgot that have been on Showtime, let me know. And I'm talking about this year. I'm not talking about yet last year, because last year the PBC model and structure was not even announced. So in 2015, my question to all the viewers, what is the most memorable fight that you watched on Showtime? On Showtime. Make sure you like my video as always. Hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video, it's Ego signing off.